Well, hello. Of course, I'm DBJ. Welcome to Third Pillar Thursday. Today we're going to talk about jungles. Let's make sure we are still in. There we go. We're framed in. All right. Today, yeah, we're going to talk about jungles. The good, the bad, the ugly, and what better way to start out with jungles, especially, oh shoot, especially if you are a fan of what the heck happened here? Okay, especially if you're a fan of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, because they did a release that has a large part of the jungle setting, and that is Tomb of Annihilation. And so in Tomb of Annihilation, let's see, here we go. Boop, boop, boop. They had some details on. Sorry if it's reflecting there in the camera, but anyway, they had some details on what it is to travel and have adventures in a jungle environment. Now it's kind of cool, you know, you get to have this thing where okay, yeah, I was wondering, I was hoping to have a guest on today, guys. Maybe another time, but the invite is always open. There are some of you, RP Gamer and Lath from Darius Jonah and Jaren and a bunch of others who have an open invitation to come on the channel. So yeah, don't even hesitate to do that. To contact me, let me know. You guys know. 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So today's third pillar, we're going to talk about jungles. Now, of course, for myself and all you guys out there, the first thing we think of with jungles is like it's hot and probably thick foliage and a shit ton of monsters, right? Just all kinds of, you can think of anything and everything. It's like this big miasma of insects and like little creatures skittering on the ground and things that go through the trees. And all you got to do is just multiply their size, and that just becomes even more dangerous, let alone anything that's sentient out there. But I like to bring up something, and this is kind of part and parcel of why it is that I even bother being a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing in the first place. All right, so let's get into some details on how 5th edition handles jungles in itself, and I'm talking about just the environment right now. And I'm talking about many of the creatures, because they also here in Tomb of Annihilation, they also talk about a ton of creatures like albino dwarves and aarakocra and jungle goblins and that kind of thing. So anyway, in 5th edition, they talk about how it's hot and it's humid and such. For example, they talk specifically about the island of Cholt. And the island of Cholt, they say it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius during the day, and seldom falls below 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius at night. A day without rain is rare, but rain varies from a steady mist to drenching downpours. All right, so let me go ahead and get this thing. Yay! I might have a guest on. All right. So, sorry guys, I'm just gonna get something here. Let's see. Let's place this into here. Boom! Smack. All right. There we go. There we go. All right. Sorry, I didn't leave you guys dangling. Hopefully we will have a guest on. So I'm just going to keep on going on. If he's able to come in, that's cool, because I love the interaction. It fuels the brain. So that's just for me. So anyway, they go on to say that visibility in heavy rain is limited to 50 yards. Beyond that distance, only huge or larger objects can be distinguished. Missile weapon ranges are halved during the rain. So here we go, where 5th edition itself already uses a limiting factor because of the environment. And in many ways, things like spell ranges, targeting people. Let's say you're a crossbow wielder or a javelin thrower or a knife thrower, an elven archer or something like that. Already here we talk about visibility and heavy rain being limited to 50 yards, and missile ranges are halved in the rain, and that's because of the torrential downpour. Now, of course, you can use this as a limiting factor in your world because it should be a challenge, right? It shouldn't just be, okay, there's just going to be a downpour everywhere all the time, thereby quote unquote nerfing the player characters that are in your game, right? The whole idea is to create a challenge so that maybe those players who are more melee, more close range, who feel like they have a disadvantage because the longer ranged player characters are able to advance further. Now they have a challenge. Now they have to rethink what their tactics are. Also, if visibility is limited to 50 yards and you want to target one of your allies, maybe you need to stabilize them or such, that's always a possibility. Guys, I'd like to welcome RP Gamer. Let me, maybe I need some headphones so I can actually hear the damn gentleman.
Hi, you all right?
RP Gamer, what's going on, man?
I'm all right. So sorry about that. Computer decides most mornings not to be a computer.
You're perfectly fine, dude. Perfectly fine. That's the bane of all of us streamers and YouTube content creators and stuff. We have everything together and we're already nervous and to begin with, and then to have some technical difficulties, it just sucks.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid looking at my phone because I keep popping up. I don't like watching myself.
Unfortunately, I have to, kind of, and I hate it too, dude. I do. But yeah, we're just talking about the jungles. You know what I do, and I know exactly what you do. We talk about things in the environment, creatures, and the weather, and all those kind of things. Yeah, and I was just reading a little excerpt from Tomb of Annihilation and how 5th edition handles the environment. Like, for example, they say on days that receive heavy rain, there's a 25% chance of a full-blown tropical storm featuring sheets of rain, high wind, lightning, tall waves at sea, and immense surf along the coast. What do they say? Travel by river is impossible. And if characters insist on traveling by foot, every character gains 1 level of exhaustion. Automatically and must make a successful DC 10 check.
Sorry about that. Just a moment. I'll go sort him out.
Not a problem. DC 10 Constitution check or gain another skill, or gain another. Ooh, that's pretty brutal. I'm not even that bad. Jeez. Prue, what's going on? Yeah, RP Gamer's here with me. He's having a little home difficulties with his dogs. I know my cats tend to desire my attention when I'm facing the computer. Let's see. Skill checks to avoid becoming lost or made with disadvantage on stormy days. That's not bad. Wow. Geez, 5th edition is brutal. Wow. I didn't realize that. Wow, if you choose to travel by foot, you automatically gain a level of exhaustion. Look, hey, that's wow. I guess I'm a pansy when it comes to the environment. Okay, so we already found out that how they handle it is they're going to slam some exhaustion on your characters if you decide to travel by foot through the jungle. The way I think of it is like when there's harm, I feel like the players should choose whether to engage in that harm, and then they have a chance of being hurt or harmed by like exhaustion and all those kind of things. Like I would prefer them to have like some kind of constitution check, maybe by day or by hour, as opposed to just saying, hey, if you're going to travel by foot, you're automatically affected. Although I understand that. Oh, by the way, that's all they have in the book, really. Hot and humid, range is limited, and if you travel by foot, you get some exhaustion because of the storms. But I think we can go quite a bit deeper with that because, yeah, there's so many things. Like now, let me tell you, I've never lived in a jungle, so I couldn't tell you what life is like, but we have plenty of examples, man. Like, for example, with torrential rain, can you imagine what would happen if you have an open flame of any type? Whether you're camping or you're an arcane caster, those are effects. Go ahead.
I can definitely imagine torrential rain because where I used to live, which surprising is just a little south of where I live now, but it never used to just rain. It was always torrential rain whenever it came. So you would never have a shower or a drizzle. It was just always torrential when it came. So I can imagine what it's like in torrential rain.
Yeah.
I mean, not to extent of a joke.
Yeah, I mean, what torrential rain? Well, first of all, it's miserable. That's hard. That's hard to embrace in a role playing game, but it's absolutely miserable. Rainwater just fills every little nook and cranny. It makes little mud puddles, like it starts to flood in low-lying areas. I can imagine if adventurers are climbing up inclines, like steep hills or something, it would just turn it completely muddy. I just can't imagine not needing to use, both hands and both feet to climb up, slick surfaces or grabbing on the vines and pushing through thick overgrown jungles, to go up or down an incline or something, or even cliff sides. It would just be incredible.
I can definitely imagine it, even in jungles, it flooding at times and just being completely impassable.
Yeah,
at times.
Yeah. Prue says, I did passive constitution checks with my players once they were hunted through unfriendly weather and terrain. The low con characters, of course, got hit first. Yeah, absolutely. And in many ways, I think with me being this, self-appointed third pillar-ist, it can get a bad rap because it feels like, yeah, I got it, Prue. Yeah, it feels like the dungeon master is like punishing people, and my opinion is that it's a challenge, right? If you're the big strong person, but now like the small skinny guy is more effective, I think of it like that. Like, okay, we need to move the spotlight around, and sometimes it's better if the smaller, quicker character maybe is more effective than the big burly person, or maybe the very intelligent wizard is, or sorcerer or warlock or something is more effective in this environment temporarily than maybe the swordsman or something of that nature. And it can change, I think, hour by hour, right? Depending on how the adventure goes, or even in the same fight, it could change. So that's why I'm just a proponent.
That's why I had so just gonna say why you're definitive by you automatically get like you automatically lose. There's no constitution check. You automatically get this effect if you even try and walk. It just doesn't make sense to me that you should have some kind of, because the big burly guy would be better at endurance, so they wouldn't get as tired.
Yeah,
so they should have that choice.
Exactly. And Prue adds in, it can look like look like that if your players don't trust you or you're not good with checking in with your players. And I absolutely agree that if you're going to, I often say that the environment is like a trap, a lair, a puzzle, an obstacle, or even another character in your world. And I think you should, when using the environment, you have to be very fair with it, and actually maybe even start out very slowly, just simple things here and there. But I do feel that the environment should have some effect, even if it's minor, to get across that the player characters are they are in this unique, strange, and hazardous location, right? Whether it's a jungle or near a volcano or the Arctic Circle or something of that nature. I do think that there should be, and also when you have checks, it places it in the player character's hands, and you might have some bizarre, and when I'm gonna say bizarre, I mean cool reactions to it. For example, your big burly barbarian might fail some of those checks, whereas the the prissy gnome bard or something might succeed on the checks, and then the players are looking around at each other like, wow, I didn't think that character's only got a 9 constitution, they're surviving, wow, that's awesome. I mean, some people could take it personally, but again, I feel like putting the danger into the choices of danger into the hands of the players, I think is far better than just like hitting them with the punishment. And one last thing. Prue says they were hit, but then they got the roll to remove exhaustion, low DC, especially after helping each other. And see that there you go with Prue makes a good point about helping each other. I think that's another part of using the environment.
Yeah, I definitely think you need to have showed the danger of the environment they're in, but don't take it completely out of their control.
Yeah. I think some other things you could add into
helping each other, teamwork.
Yeah. You're just to let you know, at least on my end, your signal's got a little bit of that audio echo or something, so I think your connection's a little bad at this moment.
I might turn my camera off.
Okay. Yeah, it could be the stream might be kind of bizarre. Prue says it was my second session as a DM. Oh wow, that's awesome. Most DMs don't even get that far with it. I know a lot of players would just get pissed off, like, oh, you're nerfing my character. But with jungles, we can go. I think we could go further with just, instead of it just being humid. Of course, we have torrential rain. I think you can really, as far as flooding goes, I think you could play with it like 2 kinds of ways. You could have the absolute flash flood, right? It's it rains and it's been raining for 2 days, and then the players come along and then they have to run or scamper out of the way of like a flash flood when maybe water crests a river or something. But you could also have like pockets of like thick mud and murky water that maybe they have to push through, that's ankle deep or to their knees or their waist or something. And you could have creatures or something hiding in it, which this would, capital A, give the creatures advantage in like hiding, maybe like alligators or frogs or things like that, giant frogs, or even those darn jungle goblins are hiding down in the muck, in the mire. And of course it would be like their, air quotes, lair, but I think it would absolutely give them, you're in their territory, so it would give them their advantage. And we don't have to ignore the fact that maybe some kind of tentacle creature or frog with its adhesive tongue or something can pull you down. PCs down into the water, and you could have, constitution checks or something, or a countdown for them to start drowning. So then you have the opportunity to add even another layer of hazard, where it's not just a matter of taking hit point damage, but it's a matter of stopping yourself from drowning.
Oh, definitely, and it would make it, and they'd have to then use the environment a lot more creatively, like using the trees to reach higher ground, or you could let them go full on Tarzan and use the vines to swing around, or George of the Jungle, depending on how the checks go.
See, my mind went there too. I think officially, it's not officially. I think the technical term, like gorillas and apes, like marsupials or whatever, I think it's called brachiation. But that's really just a climbing check, right? You could have, like you said, if player characters are going to absolutely want to get the high ground or something. And how cool is it to be maybe one of the players, or like a druid or a ranger or something, starts doing the old Tarzan thing and swinging through the trees? That'd be awesome. Maybe a barbarian or something is like scampering up in the foliage and such. I would have fun with that. And like I say, often the environment is meant to be used and abused. So it's not my intention to tell people to punish the players. It's kind of like my intention to say, hey, if the players have a great idea, let them use it. Let them absolutely go for it. I think that would be awesome. Let them use their athletics check.
Of course, I mean, it's our job as the DM to react to whatever they do. So the more they do, the better game we have.
Yeah, exactly. I think I do understand the fear in using the environment, because sometimes you never know what someone's going to think of, or there isn't really many times there really isn't a rule for doing what they want to do. Like you just mentioned, well, they're going to want to get the high ground and do the George of the Jungle thing in the trees, and that might throw some DMs off, or even some players, like the other players at the table, might be a little confused and might try to make it more complicated than it is. Whereas I think the simpler answer is the best one, right? Tarzan and George of the Jungle, it's funny and seems kind of odd, but really it's just a climbing check, right? In my opinion, like climbing or acrobatics or something. Maybe there's a hazard of falling. So sure, you have the high ground and you can avoid the flood waters, but you might have a chance of falling, which is, that's up to the player characters. That's how I look at it.
Well, of course, I mean, because if it is still raining, you could have the thing of the vines and the trees being wet, and that. I mean, you could take it as complicated as you want. Like, you need a dexterity check to climb, you need a dexterity check to hold on in the wet, you need dexterity check every time you grab a vine, or.
Yeah, absolutely. Prue says, in jungles, if extra heavy rain happens, a lot of the dangerous animals will seek shelter, so the danger percentage might be less for traveling PCs until they get hit by wet weather specialists, like monstrous frogs. And even, see, I bet Prue wasn't really thinking of this per se, but makes the point that some animals will seek shelter. And I like the idea that your encounters with, whether it's animals or monsters, whether they're smart or not, or like villagers or what have you, change their behavior in the environment, whether the PCs are there or not, right? So it's possible. I'm trying to think of a big monster that would like scamper out of the rain, like I don't know, like panthers or tigers or something, right? Maybe there's some, dire panthers in your world, but they know when the rain is about to hit. So maybe instead of attacking the PCs, maybe it scampers off after like a round or two. And then the torrential rain starts to hit. And that could be a clue to the player characters if they encounter the same creature or maybe a version of that creature again. That, yeah, this creature is dangerous, but it also can kind of predict the weather a little bit. And maybe it doesn't want to get soaking wet. What cat wants to get soaking wet? And so maybe it goes back to its lair or something. Whereas like, a giant frog could care less about the rain or the torrential rain or something, which might be a problem to to itself. Like, hey, it's the giant cat, or what's another good cat? Displacer beast, right? It runs off when it rains and the giant frogs come out, but when it stops raining, the frogs go away and the displacer beasts come out. It's it could be, a coin toss as to which one I'd want to encounter, but that could be kind of fun and kind of a cool thing to play with.
I mean, outside of encounters, for a PC knowledgeable in nature or the environment that they're in, that would be a sign of what's coming for them. They could say, well, we haven't had an encounter in a while, so that means the rains are coming, or that creature's out, so that means it's going to be dry, or...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they could follow the creatures. Maybe the creatures know the best. Maybe the PCs are like really depressed and pissed off that they're soaking wet, and maybe they can follow the dangerous creatures to find like someplace dry to, I'm sure a monstrous displacer beast would not want company, but I'm saying maybe there are like cave openings or some dry places underneath the roots of trees or something like that, that's big enough for, humanoids to like hang out in. And, so yeah, absolutely some nature checks, some survival checks. Maybe this gives them a way to find, this could be a clue to find a path through the jungle where, maybe they were lost or they didn't know where the temple was. But if they follow the behavior of some of the creatures, maybe the temple is dry and that's where they've taken shelter, that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. Prue says, and then the PC seeks shelter, and that shelter is taken by something super badass that is used to be left alone during shitty weather. That's just exactly what I was thinking, right? The creature might not be naturally aggressive, but no, you can't come in here. not when the weather's bad.
The accidental encounters, I call it.
Yeah.
The encounter that they brought upon themselves.
Yep.
I always like those.
Me too. And especially if it's like the motivation, because even monsters, mindless. We say mindless, but really mindless monsters have motivations, right? A bestial owlbear in the jungle has a reason to attack the PCs. I mean, it could be simply, I don't want you in my shelter, and it just swipes at them from the cover of dry, the dry overhang, but doesn't come out. That's a possibility. Or, maybe it's got cubs and it wants to feed them, or it could just be territorial, right? It'll chase you, 50 meters and then stop, and then goes back to where it was, eating some fish or a carcass or something like that. So they have motivations too. And along with, like, we were talking about it being rainy and like kind of humid and such, but the foliage itself could be terrible. I mean, I couldn't imagine hacking through, jungle overgrowth hour upon hour and days upon days, weeks upon weeks. That could just get very tedious.
I think maybe that's where 5th edition is getting the automatic exhaustion from. Like the idea that because you're walking through it, you're taking away at the undergrowth, and that maybe that's where they're going with it. But I still don't agree with it, though.
I'm with you. I don't necessarily agree with it. I guess simply because smart players may figure out a way around it, or they may just choose to take their time, right? If one group says, "Hey, we need to reach the temple in 3 days," and another group says, "No, we'll move slower and take a week," I would give the players the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, if you're going to move slower, this gives you an opportunity, not to be exhausted when you get there. I'm not blaming 5th edition. Like, I'm not criticizing it that it's terrible, because the book, they've got a lot to write. They've got a lot to stick into the book. So,
yeah.
Right. They can't pick every permutation, because then I'm, like I said, I'm the self-appointed third pillar-ist guy. They can't write the book for me and then say, "Oh, sure, we're just going to charge you, $30 for a 500-page book." That's not, that wouldn't make any sense, right?
And as they basically say, just ignore what you want and take what you want.
Right.
So.
Exactly. But we could also reskin. Like, if maybe this isn't the smartest thing for me to say, but there's not really a reason to actually purchase like my cinematic environs books if you're really good at like reskinning a lot of traps and such, or even reskinning some creatures and just making them part of the environment. So like 5th edition's got, let's take your typical thing, like your pit trap, your collapsing ceiling. I think they have it in the book. A bear trap, the spring-loaded bear trap or something. I think there's what's the 4th one? The rolling boulder, the classic Indiana Jones rolling boulder.
Yeah.
Right. We can take those and just reskin them. Now, of course, I would love people to get the cinematic environs books, but my point being is that as a basis, right, you can actually reskin things if you want to start using the environment. So a pit trap can be anywhere. Anyone who's done anything in the environment, when you walk around in the natural environment, you can accidentally fall into any number of pitfalls, whether you sprain your ankle or it's big enough for you to fall through into a real deep crevice or pit or something like that. Prue says 5th edition is cool because it's simplified, but also super friendly to tinkering by DMs. It's why it's become my favorite edition. And they've really, I think 5th edition has really streamlined it, and very much told players and DMs you can shift and change and do things the way you want to. And they've said it over and over again, like, "Oh, here's a suggestion, but if there's something outside of it, you really need to make a choice for yourself, for your table, for your group." And I think that's a great idea. But yeah, we can use pit traps. We can use the bear trap, instead of like a rusty mechanical thing that snaps around your ankle. It could be nasty roots or foliage, or what is it?
A Venus flytrap.
Yeah, yes, that's a Venus. Yes.
Because whenever I think of traps, I always initially go towards the man-made things in temples and such. But a trap is basically just something that hinders your progress. So it could be entirely natural. Maybe a pit is something that's being just the overgrowth has covered this gap, so they can't see it and they fall in. Or the bear trap could be the Venus flytrap lying on the floor waiting.
Yep. And I mean, what better way to have like your goblin encounter? Maybe there's like, jungle goblins or something, and they know that this area has natural pits or natural, collection of Venus flytrap, plants, and they wait for travelers to go through this area. Or maybe they leave something there, like a golden idol or something, and they leave it in the middle of like an opening, and they hope that people see it, go towards it, and then they fall into the natural environments, which would really make them traps, but they just are using the natural environment to their advantage, which would be like their lair. So it's like a trap and a lair combined together. And then the whole thing is that you can make it very organic, I think.
Also, the natural traps, the players can use to their advantage. If they notice them there, they could lead a jaguar or something in over the gap.
Yeah, see, and perfect idea, right? Someone sees the pit, almost falls in, or maybe like the dwarf in the party falls in the pit. They help them out. They get attacked by, like you said, like a jaguar, and then all of a sudden, someone has the great idea. Let's put the pit in between us and it, and then it falls into the pit, or maybe someone pushes it in the pit, or someone has a spell and knocks it over or something, or paralyzes it, or pushes, makes it fall asleep, and they dump it in the pit to keep it from attacking them. Which by the way, is a great idea, because here you have another way to solve the problem without doing hit point damage, right? If you push a creature into a pit and then cover the pit up, it doesn't really matter how many hit points the creature has. You're only worried about it getting back out the pit, right? So if you're a player character who doesn't do much damage, but you're still effective, maybe at leading creatures into danger or something, then really you're just effective as like the paladin or the barbarian in the group that can do a hell of a lot of damage to creatures.
And also pushing the jaguar into the pit and then recovering it has also made the trap a lot more dangerous. So for the next person, imagine putting the jaguar to sleep, pushing it down the pit, and then putting something else in the pit. But then that jaguar wakes up, it's just gonna instantly attack.
Oh, I could imagine this pit keeps getting more and more things in it, and it becomes more dangerous to the next thing, and it just becomes overcrowded. Like everyone, all these creatures and animals and people are down inside of the pit, and it just the jaguar gets knocked down in the pit, and then maybe like a goblin gets down in the pit, and then the jaguar and goblin are like facing off, and then like maybe like the dwarf falls down in the pit, and they're like each facing each other.
And in that classic cartoony way, by the end of it, they're using each other as like stepping stones to get out the pit.
Get out the pit. Well, if the jaguar gets out the pit first, he's like, "Thanks, guys." That would be hilarious. That sounds funny. Vladimira says 5e is way too damn rigid because of its simplicity. I don't want to get into an addition argument or something. Everyone has there's a thing out there for video games that easily translates to role-playing games, which is 8 types of fun. And I think the rigidity is based on perception, right? 5th edition doesn't have a ton of options, but I think it's because those options are left up to your imagination, and that can be a little bit off-putting because my imagination may be different than someone else's. Go ahead.
If they're coming from if they're coming from a video game, like it's limited in there. The mechanics have to be all programmed. you can't go outside of the mechanics. So that's what they're probably thinking. They're probably coming to 5th edition saying, well, this is what's been written, so this is all I can do.
Yes, and I would highly suggest that what's written is nowhere near all you can do.
No. It's just they couldn't possibly think of everything everyone would want to do.
Right. And really there's just a Vladimir says, don't get me wrong, I like video game RPGs, but I play video games for that. Right. It's just a different role-playing games have consequences and literally let you do just about anything. And video games, there's no way a programmer could ever program in, like we were talking about, dumping creatures down into a pit. Like there's no way they would ever, get the adventure and comedy of like pouring more and more things down into a pit till it just like, just becomes a comedy of errors. I think that it's based on the people you play with. Some people are very much into, I don't want to go outside the rules, and that's fine. But for me, I'm a very cinematic person. I love movies. I love how they make movies. So I love stunt work and like strange, bizarre, funny, dynamic, dangerous things that happen, like stabbing a giant lizard and then the lizard goes scampering away and you hold on to the spear or sword as you're getting dragged through the mud or something like that, right through the jungle. There's no rule for that. There's no rule for putting a rope across across the 2 trees and a big giant jungle ogre trips over it and falls down. There's no particular rule for that, but to see it happen is to me are the special moments in the game, especially when someone says, hey, can I do this strange thing that there's no rule for? And my initial response is, of course. It really, Dungeons and Dragons is basically a D20 plus a modifier. That's it, right? You have your engine to describe what you need to do. D20 plus, and then pick something. Make a strength roll, make an athletics check, make a knowledge roll, make a saving throw. It's really skill check, saving throw, or ability, check. That's it.
Definitely. I think they have tried, like in each companion book, either Adventure Path or whatever, they do add additional rules in because they know that there are those people out there who don't like having to decide their own rules. So they do try and cover everything, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, Vladimir says, yes, stunt work is great. You're fine, Vladimir, because Vladimir wants to get into learning animation, which I wish I wasn't old. I would love to get in that thing, that kind of stuff, man. It sounds awesome. But
I wish I'd went that path at uni now.
Yeah, I hear you. But okay, so we're talking about jungle. So we talked a little bit about flooding. We talked about mud and muck. But there's flash floods where maybe a flash flood could knock one or more or many things down. So it could maybe knock loose trees. It could knock PCs down and sweep them away. It could knock down the jaguar that's been tracking the PCs, and someone pushes it the right way or it fails its own athletics check, maybe it gets swept away. Thanks, Vlad. Maybe the PCs, maybe someone holds on to a tree and that tree gets ripped out of the ground because it's loose and it gets swept downstream or something. I like the idea of chaos in a battle. And I know you can go really like too far with it, but I like that idea of like a flash flood and there's things, muddy waters getting swept downhill and player characters are like scrambling from one side to another. Yeah. Vladimir says, with jungles, disease would be an issue, especially with blood-sucking insects. Yeah. I can't stand mosquitoes. Like I know they're necessary, but man, just getting bit and like poked and prodded by insects all the time, that's gotta suck. And Prue says PC and Jaguar gets caught in a flash flood and hilarity ensues. Yeah. Well, who maybe someone has a soft spot. Like, I don't want the Jaguar to drown. Here, grab the tree limb. Don't drown.
Imagine them going down the flood borders on the same log or same tree trunk. They're wanting to fight each other, but they're trying to keep their balance as well.
Yep. Sharing a branch. Yeah, that would be. Oh wow, that would be hilarious. Hey, who knows? Maybe at the Poo says Disney action scene music. Yeah. At the end of it, if they sweep up on shore somewhere, I'm sure they'd be best friends, or at least too exhausted to fight each other.
Yeah, that other classic scene of them not wanting to give up fighting, but they're just too tired to, so they're basically just slapping each other. Just reaching for each other.
Yeah, fall in each other's arms like, I don't...
Yeah, the hilarious scene where the PCs finally catch up to them and they're basically just snuggled up together.
That would be awesome. And you know what? I would... See, for me, like I would even use that. Like let's say the Jaguar just like scampers off into the woods, like half tired, exhausted, and the PC just like wakes up and is like trying to get themselves together, and then later on maybe like the Jaguar actually comes back, but it's like not mean, maybe leads them somewhere or like helps defend them. I mean, that's a great, to me that just sounds like a great idea to like build more and more with the player characters, especially if the player character has no, like, they're not a ranger or a druid, they're just out to kill things, and all of a sudden now they've got this, like, they've made this friend in the wild, and that would just be awesome. That would just,
and then in classic DM fashion, at the end of it, you kill the Jaguar.
You're so wrong. You can't. You know that's not. Hey, listen. In a movie, you never kill the puppy, dude.
No, I'd rather kill the PC than the Jaguar. To be honest, even if I'd planned it that way, I'd be sat in the session. I'm even though I'm basically playing the Jaguar, I'd still be like, no, the Jaguar's not dying. I will end this campaign if the Jaguar dies. I'm sorry.
You're so wrong. Yeah, I mean, oh man. Okay, all right. Oh, it just gives me so many thoughts. Okay, so, oh wow. Okay, so
what were we talking about?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. All right. So, there's a ton of other things than the players go pure John Wick. Oh no.
God, no. Not John Wick again.
You know what? You know what? That would just you're just gonna have to let them go total murder hobo in that one. You can't kill the puppy. You know what I mean? You can't kill
that jungle will burn down if the Jaguar dies. That jungle will get burnt down.
Yeah. You would just have to nod your head and go, yeah.
And I'd just let them. Just let them
go. Just let them go wild. A bunch of players are like, no, just screaming into the heaven, and then they just go pure John Wick headshots everywhere. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, it's just weird that as DMs we wouldn't stop them. We'd be fudging rolls in their favor and let them get the headshots.
Oh wow, that would just go crazy. I mean, yeah, I'm wicking out rages like no. no. Yes, he's pretty fair. Like, well, I guess, Oh, Prue, so
No.
funny. Oh, but yeah, I mean, there's so many things. And just like we're talking now, like just being able to just relax and let things come naturally. And just if you're a dungeon master out there and the chaos really just confuses you, just go with it. Just it's not going to break your game, right? That's something that's just not going to break the game at all.
No,
If the
definitely not.
no, you don't have to retcon it. You don't have to go back and change it or anything. Just shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, that's it. That's kind of cool. There are no rules for, like we're talking, there's no rules for befriending a jaguar after you two just going through drowning, hanging on a tree branch. Like this.
I'm gonna have to run that somewhere now, aren't I? I'm gonna have to stick a jungle in and a jaguar friend. I'm just gonna run Jungle Book. Bugger it.
Yeah, Jungle Book, yeah. Oh wow. Well,
A whole party of Mowgli's just
player wakes up and the jaguar just feels sorry for him, is licking his face like, I was going to kill you, but no, I just
too pathetic to kill.
yeah. Oh wow.
The Predator.
Yeah,
that's a jungle setting. So.
Yep. If Vladimir says that would be a heck of a way for a ranger or druid to get their gets their animal companion. Of course. I mean, okay. We can argue about the rules and we can get all these things, but if that happened, I'd give it to them. That just makes I wouldn't care if they're a ranger or druid. I would just give it to them. They're so what they're a sorcerer, or so what they're a dwarven, I don't know, fighter or something like that. I would just give it to them. I would just let it happen, because it would just be cool. What a great story. Why ruin the story with page flipping, right? That just I would just let it happen. And sure, maybe you might say, like, I guess if you got a page flip, I would go, all right, you're a fighter. You don't normally get animal companions. So what I'll say is, your next level, when you get something to choose, instead, this is what you get to choose, and leave it at that or something. Even if it was temporary, I would just let it happen. Prue says, I feel like jungles can go two ways very easy: intense survival through tough stuff, or just slippery comedy gold.
Oh god. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I wouldn't like to DM a jungle, because I would completely go the comedy way with it. Especially after doing this talk, I wouldn't be able to go serious with a jungle.
Right. Yep. And Vladimir kind of makes a point when Prue says, oh, I was talking about something flavorful. And then Prue says, so's DBJ, is just elaborating. Like, for example, in this whole story we're talking about, like, if a player character wanted an animal companion, and then this just happens to fit into the what I mean is, the player wanted an animal companion, and then this happens, and the player gets to get one, then it would just make perfect sense to just blend the two together, right? I mean, I think that would just make perfect sense. Like, oh, I went up a level, I get an animal companion. Could it be that jaguar, or could it be, when I look in the book, can I just re-flavor it to be this jaguar? And I'd be like, sure, fine, whatever, go for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just far too zen, too loose about things, but I wouldn't want to kill the story. I wouldn't kill it, man. I would
Oh, definitely, Prue. You could join my game anytime.
Yep.
We'd have a jungle going.
It just sounds hilarious. It sounds awesome. Like, I would love players to, instead of just, like Prue says, it would either just be hot and intense and just suck, or it would just be comedy gold. And I would love someone to just, you know, just to not have their head down and be depressed and like really pull something out and just like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, and then just come up with some great ideas and stuff. What Vladimir says, no, I get you. I had that druid who was a special archetype in Pathfinder who was able to use metal and guns. A druid. I guess I could see that. It's kind of different. I'm not a Pathfinder aficionado. I find that Pathfinder has leaned more towards the player's side than the dungeon master's side for me. And I don't like policing rules. Like, I don't like telling players no. And I think there's too many options for me to just be like, yeah, whatever you want. That's for me.
I'll be right back, DBJ.
Nah, take your time. So anyway, excuse me, guys. We're heading up to the hour mark anyway. So, but anyway, with jungles, we've got everything from heat exhaustion and flooding and mudslides and just flash floods and torrential rain and oh my god, reskinning those pits or something. You gotta cross a gorge over a fallen log or slippery log or something. You gotta have one of those in there, where you've got like the rocky terrain below, or the tree branches that are going across. Mirror up. I'm with you, Vlad. As far as like too many options for Pathfinder, but what's some other things in jungles that are really cool? You got to have the hidden temple. You got to have a hidden temple.
Definitely.
Every place is hidden temple. But the classic crossing the gorge over the fallen log thing, or the rope bridge. Those two things are classic movie scenes. Classic graphic novel scenes where the party has to cross over or knock down a tree and then cross the tree from one side to the other, and or cross the rope bridge and you have enemies on one side or both sides, or someone has to start cutting the rope or set fire to the bridge. Maybe there's like mounted riders on like pterodactyls or bats or something, right? Kobolds on pterodactyls, and little mini javelins or something, throwing them at you as you're trying to cross the rope bridge, and hilarity ensues. Well, at least for the DM, unless the players come up with some great ideas, the druid that wants to turn into the T-Rex in the middle of the rope bridge probably isn't a good idea.
It would definitely create a moment, though.
Yeah. We'll create a moment. Prue says, then the rope bridge is a mimic.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. That would be very unique. It would make sense, too, right? Like mimics always become that thing that, we always think of it as the treasure chest, because, a PC's got to open up the treasure chest, right? So, the rope bridge, the living rope bridge that wraps around someone and like takes them out. This goes back to being a rope bridge. That would suck, but be kind of cool.
I see mimics as always becoming what their prey need in that situation. Like in the situation they're in, they'll become whatever their prey would need. So a rope bridge would be perfect, because whatever it eat would need a rope bridge to get across the gorge. So, or a log or some such.
Could
be the door to the temple. The mimic.
A mimic as a bed? Oh my god.
God. This has gone. Yeah, this has gone in places where it shouldn't have.
I know. Because it starts to make you think like, wait a minute, you could, to make a rope bridge or like a, tree. Well, hey, listen. Gary Gygax has done those. I call them Gaxian creatures because I did a little video a long time ago about that. Where he in one of his adventure modules, he had a fuzzy bunny that sits on top of a tree stump, and the whole creature is a tree stump with the bunny, and the roots were like tendrils, and the back of the tree stump was like a big mouth, like a big maw that could eat everything. And it would, of course, the little bunny's on a tree stump, so somebody would always want to go over and pet the little bunny. And then when you go pet the bunny, it would attack you. But it's like, well, why would the creature make a little bunny on top of its head? And you're like, well, I guess enough adventurers wanted to pet the bunny enough for the creature to make a bunny on top of his head. I don't know. Anyway, there's no way we would make enough creatures to suck as much as Gary Gygax.
Maybe it was fed up of being just a tree stump. Maybe bunnies always jumped on it, so it just thought, if I put a bunny on my head, then a bunny won't bother jumping on it.
So it was just.
Oh just my god! Weird. This just got weird.
So the creature's just annoyed that bunnies keep jumping on its head the whole time. Oh man. Yeah, Bruce's anglerfish style. Yeah, just dangling it out there for the player characters. Like, that's just crazy. Anyway, so we're coming up on the hour mark. I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys. I'm gonna let RPG. Well, I'm not gonna let him because I'm gonna push him myself. Listen, go subscribe to RP Gamer's YouTube channel. It's pretty easy. Just go to RP Gamer and look for the icon that is appearing right now on your screen. It says RP Gamer. Pretty easy to find, really. Go subscribe, guys, and of course I'm DBJ. If you're bothering watching this or listening to me, you already know. All the details are below in the comments. Yeah, I write for Critical Hit Publishing. I do my thing. I'm tired of self-promotion. Okay. Oh, yes. Critical Hit. You get a critical hit if you roll a d20, right? You roll a 20. Well, something comes out on the 20th from us. So on the d6 and the d20, there will be a release from us. Bruce says, thank you for the jungle silliness. Yeah, have a good one, you guys. Everybody. But yes, on day 20, we will be releasing the Sunken Jungle, which is ironic though. Anyway, we'll be releasing that as an adventure. Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 pages long and things like that. So, dude, have a good one. Everybody, take it easy. And yep, let me sign out, stop the broadcast, and